Shalom, men. I truly hope all is well with you and your families. Today, I want to talk about how some of us have either allowed or turned our wives into our mothers. And no, I'm not saying your wife is nagging you like your mother used to. I'm saying she has become the woman who now pays the bills, makes the decisions, picks out your clothes, reminds you about your appointments, orders your food when you're at a restaurant, and even speaks for you when someone is speaking to you. Not because she wanted to, but because you stopped leading. Let me be clear, and not just from the word of Yah, but give you an example from my own home. My wife, Nicole, is not the kind of woman who wants a passive husband. She's intelligent, wise, strong, industrious, and truly values partnership. But like a lot of wives, she also desires stability. And with that comes a natural desire for control, especially when things feel uncertain. And here's the part most men miss. When you hesitate to lead, when you shrink back, she won't always press you to step up and lead because your hesitation already made her feel unstable. And that right there will create a shift in your home and your marriage. A subtle one at first, but dangerous over time. You might say, but my wife knows I'm supposed to lead. That's true, my brother. But do you remember what Yah told Eve after the fall in the garden? He said, and this was the punishment he gave. And you will desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. That's Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. I want you to think about that for a moment. Can you imagine how difficult it is for a woman to submit to a man she was punished to want to control? So when you see that rebellion, my brothers, don't look at it as that. Look at it as woman's punishment for the fall or the sin she committed in the garden, or her mother Eve did in the garden. And even in contrast, without getting myself sidetracked too much, the punishment for man was what? That work would now be a burden, that everything we would do would come by the sweat of our brow. Look now at the state of men. Not working, not want to work, staying in the basement, playing games all day, being unproductive, not providing for their families. What you're seeing is not necessarily laziness. Laziness is a byproduct of the punishment Yah gave Adam for his sin in the garden. See, that's the tension you and your wife live in daily. And if we're being honest, we as men often can make it harder, or do make it harder. Because when I used to hesitate, when I used to avoid leading in uncomfortable areas like finances, Nicole really didn't want to step up and lead in that area. But because I would avoid it because of everything else I was dealing with, she had to step up because I left a void. And men, something will always fill a void. Let me give you a scenario how this could play out in your life. You've been, and I hate this word, but I use it for the sake of, actually, it's really applicable because when you're grinding, you're wearing yourself out. So you've been grinding hard, working a 9 to 5, building your career, maybe even serving at your church or the YMCA or mentoring boys anywhere at a youth group. And you finally come home, dinner is already done. Your children are at the table doing their homework. You sit down, take a deep breath, and here comes your wife, holding a stack of bills and a list of things for you two to talk through. And you say, babe, not tonight. Can we just do it tomorrow? And she responds, okay. But the next week, the same thing happens. But only this time, it wasn't ministry. It wasn't you mentoring boys. It was you staying out late watching the game, trying to decompress from your work or all you've been dealing with in the world, hanging with your boys, just taking a break. You've been showing up for everyone else, but trust me, and I know this, I'm not only speaking to you, I'm speaking to who I used to be, but your family keeps getting your leftovers. And trust me, I understand you're tired. You've been carrying the weight of expectations, trying to keep it together, maybe even dealing with pain no one knows about. But hear me, my brother, When you keep leaving the load on your wife, you slowly transform her from the wife you prayed for into the mother you start to resent. She, again, like I said, I've seen this, starts ordering your food, telling what your taste buds would like. I've seen women pick out outfits for their men and answering for them, especially. This is one thing I really never like seeing. When someone is speaking to a man and he's hesitant, or his wife can clearly see he's not meeting that moment and she has to speak up and answer the question for him. And I've seen this a lot in business settings where men would clamor up because they're not used to leading. And I know how it feels on the other side, men, when you're embarrassed in those moments. That's not your wife, man, trying to run things around the house. That's a wife trying to survive with a man who either refuses to lead or just doesn't have the heart to lead or hasn't been taught to lead. And every time you check out, she has to check in, just like in sports. Not because, again, she necessarily wants to. And I know some women out there want that role. I'm not speaking to that type of woman. I'm speaking about the woman, the wife you married, who you know wants you to lead. But she has to step in because the family needs a leader. Men, this isn't about you dominating your household, being dogmatic. This is about taking ownership of your position. Because when you don't lead, you don't just frustrate your wife, you weaken yourself. And the role you abandon, it doesn't disappear, brothers. It gets reassigned. And every time she has to step up for what you stepped away from, something dies a little in her. The man she wants to be the covering, the man she wants to lead, has retreated. That's why it's imperative that when you're in these positions that you seek out counsel, therapy, and bring the wife in, bring a third party to help you convey what's stopping you from leading. Because deep down, I know you want to lead. You want to be respected. You want to make decisions and feel like your voice matters. But instead, you're constantly frustrated, passive aggressive, snapping at your wife for doing things you simply stopped doing. And now there's tension in your home, and you're sitting there asking, what changed? My brother, you did. Or worse, you stopped changing, or should I say, evolving. There's a term I want to introduce you to that's called weaponized incompetence. It's when a man pretends to be incapable, so someone else, usually his wife, will just do it for him. You act like you can't handle or take care of the bills. You just don't know how to schedule your doctor's appointment. You fumble on purpose until she stops asking you to do things. Now she's doing everything. And then now you're upset because she can't even be present with you. And now you're just existing. My brothers, that's not submission to God, meaning like Christ is the head. It's written that Christ is the head of us and we're the head of our wives. You're not submitting in that way. You're really manipulating the situation, or should I say, the blessing of your marriage, or the blessing of marriage. It is written that he who finds a wife finds what is good and obtains favor from Yah. And now that manipulation is costing you more than you know. It's drained your wife. It's distorted your masculinity. And worst of all, it's keeping you from growing. Maybe no one ever taught you how to lead, like I said before. Maybe your father was absent like mine, emotionally unavailable. So now, whenever something feels heavy, you check out, you procrastinate, you run. But my brother, leadership isn't about doing everything. Don't believe that lie. It's about being accountable or responsible for everything that was entrusted to you, even when you're tired, even when you don't have the answers. Because Yah didn't ask you to be perfect. He asked you to be present. He commanded you to provide. He gave you the assignment to lead, not dominate, not be dogmatic, not bark orders, but guide your family. It is written, to whom much is given, much is required. And if you were given a wife, if you were blessed with a wife, and you were entrusted with a family, then guess what, my brothers? You've been given much. So what do you do now? Start leading again, imperfectly. You don't need a certificate, my brothers, to start. You don't need permission to start. Just begin. Take one step forward. Take back what you passed off to your wife. Make the call. Handle the budget. Sit with your wife. Plan together. How about this? Dream again together. Apologize if you slipped and ran from your position of leadership. Understand that a comprehensive man doesn't defend failure. He owns it. And the humility, your wife will respect that more than any excuse you can provide. And last, allow yourself to grow up or mature or evolve in front of her. She's seen your weaknesses, so there's nothing to hide. Let her witness now your strength, your fortitude, your ability to stick with things even though they become difficult, even though you haven't been taught or trained how to lead your home like I wasn't. Not just show her your wins, but your willingness to change. Nicole often tells me that actually turns her on when she see how I can not only embrace the challenge, but know that behind my struggle of dealing with the challenge, she knows I was never trained to overcome it. And when she knows that and then see how I'm able to push through what I'm going through, it just makes her more proud as a wife. Remember, brothers, you married a wife, not a replacement for your mother. And she deserves a husband, not another child to raise. If this spoke to you, please share it with another brother who needs it right now. Also, drop a comment if you know you've got some weight to pick back up. Let's get back in position, men. Not just for our wives, not just for our children, but for ourselves, and most importantly, the Most High's will for our lives and His will for the generations who are watching us. I pray this message encourage you. If you want to be notified when I upload another video, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Until next time, my brothers, keep growing, keep building, and keep striving to be the man the moment demands. Shalom.